Hello again, my friends, and welcome to the Crimson Carnival. In this video, I am going to talk about the EU referendum. I'm going to offer you my opinions, my perspective, and general thoughts on how I think the debate is going on both sides. What I'll also end up doing is probably going off on tangents and talking about other things as well, hence why the video is called Ramblings and My Thoughts on the EU referendum. But let's not understate this. The EU referendum is perhaps the most important decision that we have ever made as a country. I wasn't alive, like a great many others, the last time the country made a decision like this, to join the single market into what would become the European Union. So I think the greatest danger in this country is apathy. People don't think that it matters. Well, I'm telling you now that it does. It does matter. It's not like, when you go to a general election and you make a decision, should I vote Labour? Should I vote Conservative? Should I vote Green? Should I vote Liberal Democrats? Should I vote for the Monster Raving Loony Party? Whatever party you vote for in a general election, this is not like that. Because it's not like you can go back in 5 years and go, okay, I made the wrong decision there, so I'm going to vote differently this time. The EU referendum is a once in a lifetime decision. There is no going back with this. Fundamentally, whichever way the country votes will change the landscape of this country and perhaps Europe for forever. It will change the way everything is done. It will affect your kids, your grandkids. It'll affect us, So, first of all, the first thing I would say is, anyone thinking that voting is not important, it's not something that interests you, it's not something that you're particularly bothered about, please vote, because it's the most important decision this country will make. Right, moving on from there, my overall thoughts of the debate. To be quite honest, I've been very confused of the tone of the debate. There hasn't been much of a positive slant on either side. There has been a lot of fear mongering. There has been a lot of fear on both sides. But ultimately, what it's come down to for me is something we know versus something we don't. That's not the reason that I am choosing to vote Remain. There are lots of reasons that I'm choosing to vote Remain. But it's something, it goes back to the old saying, rather the devil you know than the devil you don't. And the fact is this, that to a certain degree, we do know the devils on the outside. We know Nigel Farage, we know Boris Johnson, we know Michael Gove, and we know Iain Duncan Smith. Now, I'm sorry, do you want this guy having any say in how policy or anything is run?
Good morning, everybody. Our ideas are partly fear of people from different cultures coming here. And when I hear our policies about ethnic minorities, we're the only party that actually believes in social mobility. Because our ability to push migrants on a boat is my personal priority. Yes, the majority of our policies blame people who come from other countries. Employment legislation, blame immigration. Excessive regulation, blame immigration. Bad education, blame immigration. No qualification, blame immigration.
Okay, that was a bit of a tongue-in-cheek video, originally edited and put together by Cassette Boy. I took it and messed with it a little bit just for a bit of a laugh and put it through some filters and stuff. But the point remains the same. That is clearly an edited clip to poke fun at the guy. But Nigel Farage is a lunatic. He advocates, and the whole of UKIP advocate, this Australian points-based system, right? But the system's already broken. Australia has more immigration than we have. It's full of faults and full of loopholes and it's been in the news this week. I would urge you, I'll put the links in the description so you can do some research if you like yourselves. But the Australian based system is already not fit for purpose. The people in Australia know this, they want something different. So why on earth are we, or are the Out campaign, wanting to emulate this system, right? It's already broke. Let's look at UKIP for a second, right? Any UKIP supporters out there watching this, I ask you one question. Other than the Eurosceptic let's leave Europe policy, right? Can you name, off the top of your head, because I'm sure you could Google it and find something, can you name any domestic policy? They're a one-trick pony. They have no decent domestic policy. They have no clue. Another thing that I'll turn around, another thing that I will say, is that the Out campaign have no idea what will happen when we, and hopefully we don't, but they have no idea what will happen if we leave the EU. They have no idea whatsoever. And so the first on my list to talk about, as I say, was Nigel Farage. But would any of you really want the seat of power to be controlled in any way by this gentleman? And I use that term incredibly loosely as well. Now, this unsavoury character is somebody that has been the spectre of my nightmares for, 5-6 years. As a disabled man with cerebral palsy, Iain Duncan Smith was in charge of, how I and people like me were going to live our lives, whether we were going to be able to live, with some dignity and some basic humanity, or whether we were going to be living in abject poverty and fear. This man is the most disingenuous, slimy sleazeball there is. Iain Duncan Smith was the Department for Work and Pensions Secretary, and when he resigned, he said that he resigned because the cuts were too much. He couldn't stand by and see vulnerable people be attacked more. Now, I'm sorry, that is a load of horseshit. It really is. Because that guy was in full control of the changes to DLA, the lowering of thresholds, things like that. This guy is in no way the saviour of disabled and vulnerable people. In no way. If this guy is anywhere near power, everything changes. I mean, look at what the European Union guarantees. Work hours, for example. Workers' rights. The basic European Court of Human Rights. basic human rights, which everybody is entitled to. These people want to take it away. Be under no illusion about that. This guy is sinister. He is a slime ball. He has no benevolent idea for this country. We will go from a right-wing government to an ultra-right-wing government, and I fear what happens next. And then, of course, you've got Michael Gove, which is, in my opinion, not worthy of a picture slide. I mean, I don't even know why I did IDS's picture, but the guy is a scumbag. Simple. People say to me, they go, you shouldn't let the people on that are running the out campaign influence your decision to vote. Of course it influences my decision to vote, because yeah, look at the people. And finally, as I said, there was Michael Gove. He is not getting a slide. The only reason that Iain Duncan Smith got a slide is because I wanted to point out what a slime ball I believe him to be. So there we are. And finally, the leader of this brigade of idiots is this individual. So here we are, the final part of this video, and to Boris Johnson. Now, as far as I'm concerned, Boris Johnson is the scariest of all of them. He likes to play the buffoon and the court jester, and not a good court jester like myself. He plays at the fool, but this guy is one of the most dangerous politicians out there. If we vote to leave the European Union, this guy is the heir apparent to David Cameron. David Cameron is bad. I would suggest that he is worse, because they will be unfettered by European regulation. They won't have to tie themselves in knots over basic things like human rights or workers' rights or guaranteed maternity leave or any of those things. They won't have any of those restrictions as they see them, right? They come up with this figure of 350 million a week, which has come out, and basically every economist out there and said that that's not the case. That is not, when everything is factored in, that is not the figure that we spend. That is not. And they say, oh, all this money could go back into the NHS, all this, and but what you've got to remember is the people at the top that are representing the out campaign, when they have expressed their opinion on the NHS, Iain Duncan Smith wanted to introduce insurance. Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage wanted to completely privatise it so that you would have to pay for your healthcare a la kind of America, even though America have a insurance based system. Either way, the NHS as we know it today, free to the point of use, would no longer exist. I would suggest to you that these are not the individuals that we want with the keys to the castle. We don't want these individuals making policy decisions about where the country goes, because I'm only going to touch on this, and again it comes to the rambling, but for me a nightmare scenario is that we lose Europe, we leave Europe, right? We leave, we come out, we go through all the negotiations and all this, we lose all the protection that Europe gives. And Europe as an institution, NATO, all those things, was set up in the wake of the Second World War. At the end of the Second World War, 28 countries got together and they were like, okay, this can never happen again. We need to put safeties in place, and in, you know, in the spirit of cooperation and with each other, that we ensure that a world war never happens again. So there we go. That's one thing that I feel, that together we're stronger than rather this little island syndrome. That's my opinion. But the nightmare scenario for me is that we vote to leave the European Union, and then come November, across the pond, come November, we get, or not so much us, but America gets Donald Trump as President of the United States. Now, it makes me nauseous just thinking about that, but just let that sink in for a sec. That is a real eventuality. Like Boris Johnson, this guy, Donald Trump, was considered a joke when it started. He was considered a joke. Nobody took it seriously. Oh, it's just that buffoon. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But people are voting for him because, like Nigel Farage and like Boris Johnson, he was picking up on fear. Donald Trump was picking up on people's genuine fear, and rather than dealing with the situation, he exacerbated it. He got the fire, got people's anger, and used it to become the Republican nomination for the United States. So for me, nightmare scenario is that we have Boris Johnson as Prime Minister, we have Iain Duncan Smith in some kind of high profile role, we have, and then on the other side of the pond, our brothers and sisters over there have Donald Trump as President of the United States. This is a crazy time we're living in. I would much rather face that possibility a part of Europe than separate from Europe. I'd rather be part of the European Union of countries than be, nationalism is the scourge of anywhere. Nationalism makes me nauseous. It really does. I think we should all unite as people. That's, again, sounds utopian or whatever. I just think we're all people. We're all human beings. We should stick together. So that's how I'm going to vote. That's how I am going to vote on the 23rd. Thank you for watching my rambling, and I've gone on probably for about 15 minutes now. But I appreciate it. Cheers for watching the video. Take care, and I will talk to you again soon.